Hi everyone, welcome back to The Learning Gardener. If you haven't been here before, my name is Pip and we are up reasonably early to try and beat the pollinators. Not that we have to. I have seriously seen, no joke, 4 honeybees and we are 7 weeks into spring, which is a bit of a worry because last year we had so many bees, including native Australian bees, and we actually had heaps of like poppies early in spring last year, and the poppies haven't bloomed. I think because we went from what felt like a cold winter to me to, which was apparently not a cold winter, to like someone turning the summer heat on pretty much straight away. So a lot of the poppies didn't bloom, or their seeds got washed away in the horrendous weather we had in winter. And like the roses have got much smaller buds, but you can see it's still prolific, but much smaller buds, and they're covered in thrips, and that's what I've got up to deal with this morning. I tried a bit of neem oil because apparently when you go to the hardware stores here, neem oil is the cure for all. I can't say I noticed a significant change, and I was doing a little bit of reading last night, and you know, obviously I'm aware that neem oil can affect your pollinators, and I was also thinking of when I clean out the chicken coop, puffing a little bit of diatomaceous earth into the flowers to dry out the thrips. And I was reading essentially that kaolin clay can be used on roses and can be used essentially to create a little bit of a barrier to stop the thrips from sucking at the flowers and creating brown spots and discoloration, particularly on the buds. Like the buds look so depressing. It's such a beautiful flower. And the kaolin clay doesn't affect the pollinators the same way a lot of other things do. So I don't want to hurt the 4 pollinators that we have. So I thought, number one, we'll get out here early. I've been spraying all the neem and stuff at night before the light is totally gone, but well and truly after the 4 pollinators have gone to bed. But apparently neem oil is also like rendered ineffective really quickly in UV light. So what's the point? So I figured we'd try the kaolin clay because apparently if you spray it on lightly, it'll create like a little layer. And some things I saw said put a little bit of dishwashing liquid to help it stick. And I'm looking at the petals and thinking that might be a great idea. On the leaves, it doesn't seem to need it. But the idea being that it creates a very thin layer on the roses and then the thrips, because they're tiny, can't get through. And generally speaking, I'm of the opinion that there are bugs in the garden and I don't spray for anything, but this is out of control. They are everywhere. And so I thought I would try the kaolin on these 2 David Austin Roald Dahl roses because they are by far the worst afflicted in the garden. It's also quite bad on all the light colored sweet peas, but the sweet peas are going to seed, so I will just chuck out those plants once they've gone to seed. But I'm not gonna chuck out the roses or hack them back and miss out on these gorgeous blooms. I'm gonna see if we can notice any difference with the kaolin clay, and I want to see if it works on these roses before we spray all the roses, because if it kills these ones, I don't want to kill everything all at once. And you can see these are quite healthy and robust, and these are, I think, their 3rd season, so we'll get in and spray them and then we'll get on with some of the other jobs we've got to do today. We're into my favorite garden bed and I can see 2 bees finally working on this wind-beaten echium. I planted this because I've seen bees go wild for these and I wanted to make sure they always had something amazing to, oh hello bee, to enjoy. But of course, literally 2 of them have just shown up and this plant's almost done. So, okay, well, whatever. Maybe we've just got 4 bees and that's it this year. But we've got firm 5 kilo lifting restrictions. So we are limited in what we can do, but we can finally replace this dead buddleia. It took me a while to find the exact same one that I loved here last year. It's called a lock-inch or something along those lines, and it has like a soft purple bloom on it. All my other buddleias have put on a ton of growth, but they haven't quite started blooming yet, and I'm wondering if that's why my bees are unhappy, because the things that they loved last year, like the poppies, hi buddy, and the buddleia and the artichokes haven't yet bloomed despite our heat, but the native bees went wild for this buddleia, so I really want to make sure it's back in and they have their favorite food source. That one died in the first of 650 rainstorms over winter, and this one is actually a little bit wet, so I'm not going to water it in from sitting up on the deck. We're just going to pop it in and hope it survives. The other thing I'm going to do, which might seem a bit counterintuitive if I want more bees, but I'm going to remove the lamb's ear blooms. Just, they're not my favorite, and to be honest, the bees don't seem to be super attracted to them, even if the puppies are. But they just get really messy really quickly, and these were all seedlings that I put in, and they were tiny last year that I had literally grown from seed. And you can see how wide they have traveled. Sorry if you're getting dog in the microphone. They've traveled so far and so deep into the garden bed, and they're so thick. But you'd think that as a ground cover that would suppress weeds. Not really. But I don't want these dropping any more seeds. Actually, once my lifting restrictions get lifted, I am going to come through and actually pull out some of this at the back just to make it a little bit thinner. Sorry, I'm getting attacked by a fly. I don't want it to be all the way through the garden bed by summer. I want there to be blooms and like lobelia, like we just planted in there, covering the ground cover on the inside. So, you know, I don't want the lamb's ear to take over. My best friend's kids are deeply amused by the fact that you can use lamb's ear as toilet paper in emergencies. So I think everyone still remembers COVID really well. But I'm just going to get this part done, and then we'll go inside, have breakfast, and have a little rest. And I'll just see if my body copes a little bit better than it did yesterday if I break the garden tasks up a little bit throughout the day. Rafa, people don't want to hear you chewing on the microphone.
Rainy days don't seem so wet. Stormy nights don't stay. From the moment that we met, you were worth the wait. Oh, this could be the best thing that I'll ever know. talked for hours and never slept. Two silhouettes on the concrete steps. We watched the sun as it slowly crept from the horizon to the place we met. Oh, this could be the best thing that
This bed has been a bed of green cauliflowers, and they've done the best of any cauliflower I've ever grown. This one, obviously, I could have chopped a couple of days ago. It's started to separate a little bit, but I have noticed that some of them have kind of done like a broccoli thing and grown little side shoots, which I've never experienced on cauliflowers before. And for the most part, until the last week or so, they've stayed pretty pest free, which has been great. I did plant, I had excess onion seedlings and had popped them in underneath the collies, but most of them got shaded out by the collies, which is probably not a huge shock. And I think I forgot about, watering being a thing that needed to happen, because the garden beds were so wet after winter that if I tried to do the finger in the soil test, the soil was still sopping, so I just never bothered watering anything. And then all of a sudden some things crisped up and dried out really fast. So we're going to just snap these guys off. I'm going to try not to pull out the roots, because I just like to leave them in place to compost down in the actual garden bed. But chickens love the greens of the cauliflower a lot more than they like the broccoli. So we're just going to take all of these out. I think there's maybe one or two that will stay because it's not quite ready. But for the most part, we're going to try and get this bed ready for our summer crops, like our tomatoes. So last year this bed was Valentine tomatoes and Tromboncino overflow. A couple of collies to harvest for sure. This one will stay, that one will stay, but we can pop the tomato seedlings in. Normally I'd like to maybe add some soil. I'll see if any compost is ready, but because I can't lift anything, it makes it a little bit difficult. I would also like to dig the oyas down a little bit more, but again, I think I'll just wait till Monday when I'm allowed to lift a little bit more. But I'm going to go and give these to the chickens before I start accruing too many and they get too heavy. It's funny, we don't have bees, but we do have wasps. So in the absence of lifting ability, what I'm going to do is just make some little piles of mushroom compost, and we're going to pop the tomato seedlings in there. Because the soil was pretty dry, and because we've still got these couple of cauliflowers that are either almost mature enough to pick or still have a way to go, I've only covered the area with a light layer of mulch, just so that if we get rain next week, which hopefully we will, it actually gets a chance to kind of soak in deep, especially until I get the chance to actually dig in the 3 oyas that are in this bed a little bit deeper. But at least these are Roma tomatoes, so we've got 5 of them in and 3 basil plants, so at least they'll have a chance to kind of get going and get settled in. I planted them a little bit deep. You can plant tomatoes deep and they will create roots from the stem, and some people say that makes for a stronger tomato plant. I can't say I've noticed any difference when I've buried it deep versus when I haven't. So I'll just tend to do it now because it makes it a little bit more stable in our spring winds, which haven't been bad at all this year. But we've given it a nice drenching in, although it'll need to be hit for the next couple of days. And then as soon as these come out, if we have seedlings ready, we can plant up the other side. And then as soon as my lifting restrictions are lifted, we will pop in a climbing structure to support the tomatoes on. But I'm happy to have the Romas in early this year, or I guess we're halfway through spring, so it's not really early, but earlier. They were the last ones I planted last year. It took me forever to get round to them, and I barely got any. So at least they're in and getting started, and hopefully we will get a lot of tomatoes because it's already very hot. So the fact that the beef steaks are already looking mature and flowering, except for the one that I killed, these are getting in now. At least we might get some staggered amounts of tomatoes, which also gives me time to clear out the freezer to make space for summer's crops, which will hopefully be abundant. But given the way the onions and the leeks and the beets and the celery have bolted, we will see. The last thing I want to do for today is pick the strawberries. I've been a bit rubbish at doing them, and it's probably because you can tell that this has turned into a disaster zone, and I keep hoping that I will actually fix the disaster zone, but so far that has not happened, either because of time, energy, or physical incapacitation like this week. And normally I would be like so stressed about missing berries, and the trouble is they're all over the ground, they're everywhere. But normally I'd be really stressed about that, especially given that This is our only berry bed this year. This bed, the berries all died except for 2 blueberries, and the other bed, all the blueberries got covered in, all the strawberries got covered in mallow, and so we've lost all of them. But I know that there's heaps of dodgy strawberries in here, and normally I'd feel awful about that. But because we've got the chickens this year, I don't really feel bad about it. It's not that I'm trying to waste the strawberries, it's just that, you know, life's happening, and I just, at least with the chickens here, I know that I'm not just chucking strawberries out. The chickens can eat them, and the chickens will be fist bumping harder than someone on the Jersey Shore. So at least someone's going to enjoy the strawberries, and they're not going to go to waste, even if, you know, I could have eaten them. But I'm just going to try and pick as many as I can. I'm not going to try and deal with the diabolical mess that is this berry bed beyond that today. I'm going to leave this till when I'm allowed to dig and lift, and also, you know, as minor as my procedure was, my body is just saying, okay mate, sit down. So I'm going to sit down, but I'm just going to maybe pull a couple of these dandelion weed things and pick a few strawberries and try not to tread on any. And then I'll go inside and work out which ones are for the chickens and which ones are for me, but at least we can try and pick as many as we can. So most of the strawberries are pretty far gone. So we'll give a couple to the chicken, to Betty White. And they're very excited. Okay guys, here you go. Here's your special afternoon snacky. There's enough for everyone. And there's enough for some tomorrow. There you go, boo. Oh, they love the strawberries. Anyway, we did manage to clean out some of the weeds and bring them in for the chickens. So they're getting a little bit of an afternoon feast. But there's a lot more work that needs to be done in the chicken run and in the strawberry coop area. But it'll just have to wait. That's enough for today, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and thanks so much for hanging out with us again here at the Learning Gardener.